Chapter 10. And sovereign Ahasuerus laid compulsory labor on the land and the islands of the sea. And all the acts of his power and his might, and the exact account of the greatness of Mordecai, with which the sovereign made him great, are they not written in the book of the annals of the sovereign of Media and Persia? For Mordecai the Yahudi was second to sovereign Ahasuerus, and great among the Yahudim, and pleasing to his many brothers, seeking the good of his people, and speaking peace to all his seed. Then Mordecai said, Elohim has done these matters. For I remember a dream which I saw concerning these matters, and none of them have failed. A little fountain became a river, and there was light, and the sun, and much water. This river is Ester, whom the sovereign married, and made sovereigness. And the two dragons are Haman and I, and the nations are those who were assembled to destroy the name of the Yahudim. And my nation is this Yasharal, which cried to Elohim and were saved. For Yahuwah has saved his people, and Yahuwah has delivered us from all those evils. And Elohim has wrought signs and great wonders, which have not been done among the Gentiles. Therefore he has made two lots, one for the people of Elohim, and another for all the Gentiles. And these two lots came at the hour and time and day of judgment before Elohim among all the nations. So Elohim remembered his people, and rightly ruled his inheritance. Therefore those days shall be unto them in the 12th month, the 14th and 15th day of the same month, with an assembly and joy and with gladness before Elohim, according to their generations, forever among his people. Chapter 11. In the 4th year of the reign of Ptolemaeus and Cleopatra, Disitheos, who said he was a Kohen, a Levite, and Ptolemaeus his son, brought this letter of Purim, which they said was the same, and that Lysimachus, the son of Ptolemaeus, that was in Jerusalem, had interpreted it. In the 2nd year of the reign of Ahasuerus the Great, on the 1st day of the 1st month, Mordecai, the son of Yair, the son of Shimei, the son of Kish, of the Benjamin tribe, had a dream, who was a Yahudi and dwelt in the city of Shushan, a great man, being an attendant in the sovereign's court. He was also one of the captives which Nebuchadnezzar, the sovereign of Babel, carried from Jerusalem, with Jeconiah, sovereign of Yehuda, and this was his dream. See a noise of uproar, with thunder and earthquakes and disruption in the land. And see, two great dragons came forth ready to fight, and their cry was great. And at their cry all nations were prepared for battle, that they might fight against the righteous people. And see, a day of darkness and gloom, distress and anguish, affliction and great uproar upon the earth. And the whole righteous nation was troubled, fearing their own evils, and were prepared to perish. Then they cried to Elohim, and upon their cry, as it were from a little fountain, a great flood was made, even much water. The light and the sun rose up, and the lowly were exalted, and devoured the great. Now what Mordecai, who had seen this dream, and what Elohim had determined to do, awoke, he regarded this dream in mind until night, and desired to know it by all means. Chapter 12. And Mordecai took his rest in the court with Gabbatha and Thara, the two eunuchs of the sovereign, and guards of the palace. And he had heard their schemes, and searched out their purposes, and learned that they were about to lay hands upon Ahasuerus the sovereign. And so he informed the sovereign of them. Then the sovereign examined the two eunuchs, and after they had confessed it, they were hanged. And the sovereign made a record of these matters, and Mordecai also wrote of them. So the sovereign commanded Mordecai to serve in the court, and for this he rewarded him. However, Haman, the son of Hammedatha the Agagite, who was great in esteem with the sovereign, sought to torture Mordecai and his people because of the two eunuchs of the sovereign. Chapter 13. The copy of the letters was this: The great sovereign Ahasuerus writes these matters to the princes and governors that are under him from Hadu to Cush in 127 provinces. After I became ruler over many nations and reigned over the whole world, not lifted up with presumption of my authority, but carrying myself always with straightness and kindness, I purpose to settle my subjects continually in a quiet life, and make my reign peaceable and open for passage to the farthest coasts, to renew peace, which is desired of all men. Now when I asked my counselors how this might be brought to pass, Haman, who excelled in wisdom among us, and was approved for his continual kindness and steadfast trustworthiness, and had the esteem of the second place in the reign, declared to us that in all nations throughout the world there was scattered a certain malicious people that had laws contrary to all nations, and continually despised commands of sovereigns, so that the uniting of our reigns with esteem intended by us would not go forward. Seeing, therefore, we understand that these people alone are continually in opposition to all men, differing in the strange manner of their laws, and evilly disposed towards our reign, working all the evil they may, that our reign may not be firmly established. Therefore, we have commanded that all those who are indicated in writing to you by Haman, who is appointed over the affairs, and is next to us, shall be utterly destroyed by the sword of their enemies, with all their wives and children, without any kindness or pity, the 14th day of the 12th month of this present year. That they, who of old and now also are malicious, shall in one day with violence go into the grave, and so from now on cause our affairs to be well settled and without trouble. Then Mordecai thought upon all the works of Yahuwah, and made his prayer to him, saying, O Adonai Yahuwah, the sovereign Almighty, for the whole world is in your power, and if you have appointed to save Yasharal, there is none that disputes you. For you have made the Shamayim and earth and all the wonders under the Shamayim. You are Adon of all, and there is none that resists you, who is Yahuwah. You know all. You know, Yahuwah, that it was neither in contempt nor pride, nor for any desire of esteem that I did not bow down to proud Haman. For I could have been content for the salvation of Yasharal to kiss the sole of his feet with kindness. But I did this that I might not prefer the esteem of man above the esteem of Elohim. Neither shall I worship any but you, O Elohim, neither shall I do it in pride. And now, O Yahuwah, Elohim, and Sovereign, spare your people, for their eyes are upon us to bring us to naught. Indeed, they desire to destroy the inheritance that has been yours from the beginning. Do not despise the portion which you have delivered out of Mitzrayim for yourself. Hear my prayer, and be kind to your inheritance. Turn our sorrow into joy, that we may live, O Yahuwah, and praise your name, and do not destroy the mouths of those who praise you, O Yahuwah. And Yasharal likewise cried most earnestly to Yahuwah, because their death was before their eyes. Chapter 14. Sovereigness Esther also, being in fear of death, came to Yahuwah, and laid aside her splendid apparel, and put on the garments of anguish and mourning. And instead of precious ointments, she covered her head with ashes and dung, and she humbled her body greatly, and all the places of her joy she filled with her torn hair. And she prayed to Yahuwah Elohim of Yasharal, saying, O Adonai, you alone are our sovereign. Help me, an empty woman who has no helper but you, for my danger is at my hand. From my youth I have heard in the tribe of my family that you, O Yahuwah, took Yasharal from among all the people, and our fathers from all of their forefathers for an inheritance forever. And you have performed whatever you promised them. And now we have sinned before you. Therefore you have given us into the hands of our enemy, because we worshipped their mighty ones. O Yahuwah, you are righteous. Nevertheless, it does not satisfy them that we are in bitter captivity, but they have vowed to their idols that they should abolish that which you have established with your mouth, and destroy your inheritance, and stop the mouth of those who praise you, and quench the esteem of your house and of your altar, and open the mouths of the Gentiles to give the praises to their idols, and to exalt a fleshly sovereign forever. O Yahuwah, do not give your scepter to those who are not, and do not let them laugh at our fall, but turn their scheme upon themselves, and make an example of he who has begun this against us. Remember, O Yahuwah, make yourself known in the time of our affliction, and give me boldness, O sovereign of the nations and Adon of all power. Give me eloquent speech in my mouth before the lion. Turn his heart to hate when he fights against us, that there may be an end of him and all that are like-minded as him. But deliver us with your hand, and help me, who is abandoned, and who has no other help but you. You know all, O Yahuwah. You know that I hate the esteem of the unrighteous, and abhor the bed of the uncircumcised and of all the Gentiles. You know my need, for I abhor the sign of my high esteem, which is upon my head in the days in which I show myself, and that I abhor it as it were menstrual cloth, and that I do not wear it when I am alone by myself, and that your female servant has not eaten at Haman's table, and that I have not greatly esteemed the sovereign's feast, nor drunk the wine of his drink offerings. Neither has your female servant had any joy since the day that I was brought here to present, but in you, O Yahuwah, Elohim of Abraham. You, O mighty Elohim, above all, hear the voice of the destitute, and deliver us out of the hands of evildoers, and deliver me from my fear. Chapter 15. And on the third day, when she had ended her prayers, she put away her mourning garments, and put on her splendid apparel. And being adorned in esteem, after she had called upon Elohim, who sees all and is deliverer of all, she took 2 female servants with her, and she leaned on the one to carry herself daintily, and the other followed, bearing up her train. And she was tanned through the perfection of her body, and her countenance was cheerful and very delightful, but her heart was in anguish for fear. Then, having passed through all the doors, she stood before the sovereign, who sat upon his royal throne, and was clothed with all his splendid robes, all glittering with gold and precious stones, and he was very frightening. Then lifted up his face that shone with splendor, he looked very fiercely upon her, and the sovereigness fell down, and went pale, and fainted, and bowed herself upon the head of the female servant that went before her. Then Elohim changed the spirit of the sovereign into compassion, who, in alarm, leaped from his throne, and took her in his arms till she came to herself again, and comforted her with loving words, and said to her, Esther, what is the matter? I am your brother. Take courage. Though our law is established, you shall not die. Come here. And so he held up his golden scepter and laid it upon her neck, and embraced her, and said, Speak to me. And she said to him, I saw you, my master, as a messenger of Elohim, and my heart was troubled for fear of your greatness. For you are wondrous, master, and your face is full of favor. And as she was speaking, she fell down from faintness. Then the sovereign was troubled, and all his servants comforted her. Chapter 16. The great sovereign Ahasuerus, to the princes and governors of 127 provinces, from Hodu to Cush, and to all our trustworthy subjects, greetings. For many, the more often they are esteemed with the great bounty of their esteemed princes, the prouder they have grown, and do their best not only to harm our subjects, but not being able to handle wealth, also undertake to do against those who do good to them, and not only take respect away from among men, but also lifted up with the esteemed words of wicked men that were never good. They think to escape the judgment of Elohim, who sees all and hates evil. As often flattering speech of those who are put in trust to manage the affairs of their friends has caused many that are in authority to be partakers of innocent blood, and has surrounded them in incurable evils, deceiving with the falsehood and deceit of their evil disposition the innocence and goodness of princes. Now you have seen this, as we have declared, not so much by ancient histories as you may, if you search what has been done evilly of late through the corrupt behavior of those who are unworthily placed in authority. And we must guard for the time to come, that our reign may be at rest and peaceable for all men, both by changing our purposes and always rightly ruling that which is evident with more equal proceeding. For Haman, a Macedonian, the son of Hamadatha, being indeed a foreigner of Parisian blood, and far removed from our goodness, and as a foreigner received by us, had obtained the favor that we showed towards every nation so much, that he was called our father, and was continually esteemed by all, being the second to the sovereign. But he, not upholding his greatness, went about to deprive us of our reign and life, having by many crafty deceits also sought from us the destruction of Mordecai, who saved our life, and continually worked for our good, as well as blameless Esther, a member of our reign, with their whole nation. For by these means he thought, finding us lacking friends, to have the reign of Persia transferred to Macedonians. But we find that the Yahudim, who this wicked wretch has delivered to utter destruction, are not evildoers, but live by the most righteous laws, and that they are children of the Most High and Almighty, living Elohim, who has appointed the reign both to us and to our forefathers in the most excellent manner. Therefore you shall do well not to put into action the letters sent to you by Haman, the son of Hamadatha, for he who was the worker of these matters have been hanged at the gates of Shushan with all his family. Elohim, who rules over all, speedily rendered vengeance to him according to his deeds. Therefore you shall publish the copy of this letter in all places, that the Yahudim may freely live after their own laws, and you shall aid them, even the same day, being the 13th day of the 12th month, that they may be avenged on those who in the time of their affliction shall assault them. For El Shaddai has turned the day to joy for them, in which the chosen people should have perished. You shall therefore guard it a high day among your solemn feasts with all feasting, that both now and hereafter there may be safety for us and the highly respected of Persia. But to those who conspire against us, a remembrance of destruction. Therefore, every city and land, whatever, which shall not do according to these matters, shall be destroyed without kindness, with fire and sword, and shall be made not only impassable for men, but also greatly loathed by wild beasts and birds forever.